the way we would like it to be. Can I have a show of hands how many people have questions?
I just have a remark.
Okay, you have a remark. So I'm going to throw the ball to you, and then you throw the ball to whomever else. But I beg of you, please do not throw the ball back to any of us, because all this is going to go down. Okay? Thank you.
Okay. Well, the remark I want to say was kind of what you mentioned regarding our possibility to, actually move in Europe and work abroad. And I think one really important thing that comes in when we talk about such an issue like migration and moving abroad and working abroad is the correlation between national identity and European identity, and how where the line is between the two. Because I mean, on one hand, I think it's really important to keep your national identity. However, with the European Union and more states joining in the EU, and like Hungary has been part of the EU for like 11 years, so I think the importance of national identity is kind of like fading partly. And I think the whole idea of European identity is becoming more and more important. So I think it's very interesting to actually acknowledge the fact that there is such thing as European identity, and maybe we don't need to be so harsh on we don't need to really be that nationalist and say that, oh, I'm Hungarian and I have to do this for my country and do that, or I'm I don't know, stand up. I mean, you have to stand up for your country, but on the other hand, when we are part of such a union, I think the idea of national identity kind of fades into a more united European identity. Yeah, and I actually studied political science at the university. I studied international relations, and I wrote one of my papers on national identity and how national identity and European identity work together, how they affect each other. And I did a survey with the university students at Malmö University, and the outcome of the surveys or the research was that most international students at the university found European identity more important than their own national identity. So I think with our project, like Reclaim Your Space in Europe, I think it's just important to note down that there's such thing as European identity, and yeah, that was just my thought. I wanted to say that.
Thank you. Does anybody want to comment on this idea of European identity versus your national identity? Any comments here? No. Okay, throw the ball to whomever in the audience. They will love you for it.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to throw that in as a question. I had the feeling, I had to stand up. Yeah, okay, sure. Okay. But I had the feeling now for the first round that this sounds all very positive almost. You know, it's a phase and people are going to come back and so. But we sat here a couple of months ago for a conference with Hungarian artists, mainly from the theater, who basically are forced to work in Germany because, you know, the support has been completely cut for them to work here. We are in a situation, seems to me, where if Jobbik and Fidesz put together, this is a majority in Hungary. I mean, it's not, it doesn't, it seems to me like to call it a phase is a little bit of a euphemism. Yeah, if a big majority of Hungarians vote for those two parties, it doesn't seem to me to be a phase looking from the outside, yes? And I saw the New York and the London movie, and the question is, all the characters in these movies, from no character I had the impression that, you know, he or she is like planning to come back the next week, yeah? It seemed to me more like that most characters, also in the New York version, basically pretty much decided to stay in the country where they have gone to and to build the future for their children, like, you know, the little son in that movie, you know, to accept the British citizenship. And last one, if all those people leave and we think this freedom of movement is so nice for everybody, I mean, in 10 years, isn't that another vision to say no doctors, no engineers, total brain drain? Doesn't that mean that, you know, so-called Middle Europe becomes a social case, which then has to be, you know, financed by transfer payments in order to just secure hospitals and you know, social security. So the picture seems to me so nice, too nice, maybe.
Does anybody want to comment on this? You're giving another chance to talk about Hungary and what's happening in the arts, in politics, in economy, and in general in the way things are run.
Sorry,
no,
we have two microphones.
You were first.
I wanted to comment on your last point, the question of brain drain, because recently when the freedom of movement was granted also for Bulgarian and Romanian citizens in Germany, there was a really racist debate about, you know, now all the Romanians and Bulgarians are coming. And when you look at the numbers, in fact, 85% of the people that were coming are highly qualified people. And if you go to Romania and Bulgaria now, all the nurses have left. Like the hospitals are, as you said, they're empty. Well, I'm overdoing it a little bit here. They're struggling to find personnel. And yesterday I was talking to a colleague, and they said that a doctor in Hungary earns around 350 euros. And I mean, if you compare that to the salaries, even if you have no working hours, and even if you have a stressful job, I haven't confirmed these numbers. If there are people who know the numbers better, please correct me. But at least one must say that the salaries are really low. If you compare that to the possibilities that you might have in the UK, in Sweden or Germany, yes, there will be a problem, exactly because many highly qualified, especially young people, move to other countries. But I believe the only way that we can solve this is if we give positive incentives to the economies and, well, a more sustainable development in Central and Eastern Europe, because then I think that many of those people that left and maybe gained more experience would also happily come back, because I felt that there were characters in the movie that were really homesick also and that wanted to go back. I mean, the Chinese practitioner, they are already back, but we just need to also support that this kind of development can happen in Hungary, Bulgaria, Romania, many other countries as well.
How? But how? What can we do?
Maybe just if there is a deeper interest, I'm also a member of the regional committee in the European Parliament, and the structural funds of the European Union are, for example, something that are supposed to do that. It's around 300 billion euros for a time of 7 years, and this money, for example, is going to Hungary. Well, a big part of the money is going to Eastern and Central European countries to do exactly that. Sorry for speaking so long.
I had no intention of sugarcoating the picture, but now that you mentioned that it seemed to be too nice, just a short comment on that. If we compare the proportion of youngsters who left the country with other Eastern European countries, it's not dramatic at all. Hungary is not higher than Romania, Slovakia, Poland, Czech Republic, and so on. So that's one thing. And the other is that as a part of international mobility, Hungary should be able to attract other students and youngsters all over the world to replace or supplant those who left. So I'm not saying that that would be the solution, but it could be part of the solution. But I agree with you that the situation is critical, because it's not just the survey numbers, but the factual numbers show that it's now almost 500,000 people who left Hungary, and most of them are youngsters and capable, smart people who could find a job in Western Europe. So it's really critical. So I agree with that.
Can I just add something to what you said? But I think it's also really important to note, like, I don't exactly know the exact numbers, but I think there are a lot of youngsters in Hungary who go abroad for like study reasons for university to actually get their degree. And there was Toby, for example, in the movie, who, like, especially at the end, said that he's like very, very homesick even after the first year of university. And I think there are a lot of youngsters who go abroad because, of course, they don't want to get there, like, they don't want to start off their life by having student loan. And if you just go like a few hundred kilometers, you can go to just Germany, you can go to Sweden, you can go to like so many European countries where you can study for free. And I think many of the youngsters go abroad to get their degree, where they don't need to pay. They can have like similar like living circumstance, and then they come back. So regarding like the qualified people leaving, I think there are a lot of those people, like youngsters, who go for studying.
Yeah, I'd just like to, you're next, but I'd just like to point out that I think we should address all the elephants in the room. I think that's the way to have a discussion, an open discussion. And for me, the elephant in the room is, I've lived in the Netherlands, I've lived in Hungary, I now live in Croatia, all three are European Union member countries. Life standards are different. In Hungary, a teacher, high school teacher, will make around 400 euros. In Croatia, they will make around 850 euros. And in the Netherlands, if I go shopping to a supermarket to buy food, I will pay the cheapest food in these three countries. So standards are different, and the quality of basic life needs and costs are different. And this is something I think in Europe has to be addressed at the European level. So values are nice, but we should also talk basic life needs.
I just wanted to add to what you have just said about financing education. Yeah, maybe the system of student loans are better in the UK, but the price of the university is way much higher. So it's £9,000 a year compared to a couple of 100,000 forints here in Hungary. So maybe the loan is easier to repay, but you will repay it there in the UK for the rest of your life, 30 years or something. I'm not saying that you're gonna buy that soon, but the loan is finished after. So sorry, just I don't really think that any of the students are going, for example, to UK or Germany because it's cheaper there, because there are tuition fees in Hungary, but they are lower than the accommodation costs you will have in Germany, for example. So if you want to study here in Hungary, you can earn some money while studying, and you can finance that. I think it's rather the level of education you can get. That's why they go to abroad, and because there are some programs where they can get in another country, whereas in Hungary there is a limited number of spaces at university.
However, I think the UK is not a good example, because in the UK you have to pay crazy amount. But, sorry?
The UK is definitely not a good example.
No, that's a crazy amount. I mean, who studies in the UK?
Sorry,
I see somebody in a white shirt standing up and somebody holding a ball.
Yeah, just like you could go to Sweden, you can go to
And one has to hold the ball in order to speak.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, just back to what we said, I really don't think that it matters somehow. No one is going home if he's homesick or not. And the same story, people are not actually leaving on something if there's a tuition a bit cheaper or a bit more expensive. They go there because for opportunities, for challenges, and if they're able to somehow manage to go and get these challenges. And so I would like to talk again with the MP also about these incentives that we talked about to get these things back in balance, and to get on what you said. It doesn't matter if you're in Hungary, we have like comparable, a bit less movement than in Poland, or a bit less movement than in Czech Republic, or we have a significant movement already of people leaving, what this film has shown. So, and you talked about incentives. So what are these incentives we want to make anyhow to make people move back, or having? I'm not talking about making people anyhow moving and then going back. Maybe bring Germans to Hungary and so on, and building up again here the film industry or something. So, but the question is, what would these incentives mean? Could be so like this. One thing would be transfer payment and money. So there must be huge transfer money paid by UK, France, and Germany into this area. Or another incentive could be, maybe we can somehow change the political situation that artists, as already also has come up, have the freedom and have the feeling that they can freely roam around and work and express themselves here as they can in Berlin and Paris or so on. So I think we need to talk about, if we want to talk about any kind of equality or exchange, movement, mobility, not only mobility into northern countries, how do we get incentive? I think these are two, maybe there are more, and how do we make these two possible?
Maybe just to say that in the European Parliament I also one of my focal points is youth unemployment. And I was mentioning the structural funds. I would say even above the structural funds, we need massive investment at the moment in the European Union overall. Even in Germany, we have an investment gap, and this would create these incentives of actually coming back. But what we see happening in the European Union at the moment is the exact opposite. We have a Europe of austerity, and this is not, especially in countries that are in crisis, going to give these incentives to young people to go back. And just to, when I speak to my Spanish friends, they say, well, half of my family, all my friends, all my university colleagues, they cannot find a job, they don't have any possibilities. If they are lucky, then they go from unpaid internship to unpaid internship. Yeah, these are the lucky ones that have 3 master degrees. So how can this situation ever lead to incentives? And this is why I believe that the European Union needs to put an economic development possibility, especially for countries that are in crisis, because otherwise, if there are no jobs, the people are not going to go back. This is just the reality.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm glad that you discussed economical issues. My name is Mikhail and I'm coming from Czech Republic. And important is to say, that there is a program of the European Commission, and it may be questions to the MP from the European Parliament. The program is called the Youth Guarantee, which was already implemented in the previous period of the European Structural Fund, and now it will be again implemented in the European Structural Investment Fund during the 7 years period. And did the European Commission done some research about the effectiveness of the money which was spent through the Youth Guarantee for the youth in each country of the European Union? Because what I learned from our research, what we were done in the Czech Republic, these money go directly to the labor offices, which are mostly don't do their job properly because they do not work as those who are the advisors for the work which you can do, but mostly they do in the countries the social work. So how you can affect the work of the labor offices to be the program of the Youth Guarantee properly run in the country.
Oh my God, this topic, you can get me talking for the next 3 hours, seriously. Because I'm very, very emotional about it, and you are completely right. There was the Youth Employment Initiative, it's called, that was started, the money was supposed to start floating in 2014, even in the end of 2013. These were the 6 billion euros that many people talked about, and one of the things that was supposed to be implemented with this money was the Youth Guarantee, which means that every young person under 25 gets either training, a job opportunity, or an internship after 4 months of being unemployed. Now, the situation that we see right now, you are right. I don't know the case of the Czech Republic as much as you do, probably. Yeah. But the implementation and how this money is spent, this is a decision of the national governments in the different countries. So we have a very diverse picture. There are some programs in some countries that are really successful. There are some countries where it's a complete disaster. Now, recently there has been a study by the European Court of Auditors. This is the institution that is checking how European money is being spent. And they said, well, the Youth Guarantee didn't create any job. And this is something that, well, yeah, it's probably true, and it is true, but the Youth Guarantee was never meant to create any jobs. The Youth Guarantee and the Youth Employment Initiative were meant to ease the transition between education and labor market for young people. So if we want to create jobs, we need much more money than 6 billion euros. I mean, 6 billion euros, we have a population of 500 million million people in the European Union, 500 million people. We have at the moment 7.5 million unemployed people in the young people in the European Union, and this 6 billion was never there to solve the crisis. We need much, much more money than that in order to have a proper job creation program. So if you want to say the youth guarantee is not the solution to it all, it's not. But still, I would defend the youth guarantee and the youth employment initiative as something that was a step in the right direction. But now, alongside of this step, we need other steps in order to exactly create the incentives that we were talking about before.
I'm sorry that I again jump to, I mean the youth guarantee, the program is very well written, but I don't think so that the youth networks which are around Europe, where
they are not involved in the implementation.
In the implementation, and that's the reason why it's failing, at all.
Exactly.
And also, I mean, the labor office has to change somehow, and the European Commission shall somehow shall somehow influence the country with a code of conduct on EU membership. So somehow it's possible, because the European Commission has the tools how to influence the country.
To push exactly that. And you are completely right. The countries where there was youth participation, where youth organizations were involved in the implementation of the programs are much more successful than in the countries where the youth was left out. But this again is just a call for action to all of us, because we need to raise our voices, because otherwise they are going to do bullshit, and then they're going to call it the Youth Employment Initiative, and then they're going to say, well, but the young people in Europe, they are not looking for jobs hard enough, and we are giving them all this money, and still nothing is happening. So you are completely right, and I'm in the European Parliament putting a lot of pressure on the Commission to do exactly what you said, but we also need to put pressure on the national governments, because they are the ones that are responsible for the implementation.
Yeah. First of all, I want to thank you, Terry. The comment you made in the very beginning about people who don't want to leave their home country and who want to actually stay home. I think it's really important that we acknowledge the fact that not everybody wants to move around the world, even though everybody maybe in this room wants. It's a really sad idea if we are actually as greenish, reducing people as part of labor force. I mean, there's more to it. But what I really would like to ask is about actually Erasmus program, because we were here discussing university studies and movement inside Europe, and this is not my position, but I've heard of the criticism that Erasmus program, Erasmus exchange is a hell of a money put to people that are already so privileged because they are actually studying in universities, and now they get even more money to study even more, develop their European identity. So it's good. I mean, I have done Erasmus exchange, so it's easy to me to talk about my European identity, but was born with, but it's like, how do you answer to that? Is it like, are we just actually building a gap here between social groups?
I would like to have Daniel as well, and Bola respond to this. Bola to Daniel, because you are training people who want to leave and you need the research. So what is the profile of people who are leaving, okay? Yeah. So please answer first and then.
Just very quickly, this is a criticism that very often comes, that it's money put into people that are white, middle class, privileged, and that could, basically have their parents pay for it as well. I think it's sometimes if you look at the numbers, it's not a completely valid criticism, because there are also young people that couldn't afford it by themselves without this scholarship. And I think that the answer to that doesn't have to be we should cut Erasmus funds, but the answer should be we should actually raise them so that we can give more money to people that might have more difficulties, that might, for example, need language training beforehand, or, and this is the new thing in the Erasmus Plus, also to people, not only people who are studying, but people who are doing apprenticeships. There the situation is sometimes a little bit more difficult because the way how apprenticeship and vocational training works in the European Union is very diverse as well. But still, I think that this is the way to go. We would actually need more money so that we can empower more people, also people from less privileged backgrounds, to go and live in another European country.
Well, we help students who are doing their full courses abroad, so it's not really Erasmus. So they need to rely on their families or on the country's educational system where they're going. So we are happy that they are in the EU. So if a Hungarian student gets admitted to Scotland, for example, he or she gets their education for free. So, but going back to your question, I partially agree, but I'm not in the position to change anything about it.
I was a former Erasmus student.
Hello, my name is
I also partially agree because it's also my personal experience that many poor students got an Erasmus scholarship and could go abroad. We didn't really research the Erasmus students, so I cannot present you any research experience, but I have another thought on that. The biggest problem is, which I see, that many students, especially in Hungary, but as far as I know, it's not just Hungary, they are not keen on exploring the opportunities. So they just wait till a job is offered to them, a professor to tell them that, hey, you should apply to Erasmus or to other opportunities. So the problem is that in the secondary schools, they teach the students history, grammar, and so on, but they don't teach how to find an opportunity. And it's a very big problem. In my university, we have many ways that we advertise scholarship opportunities, internship, job opportunities, and so on. And still, many of the students, they just ignore the emails and do not apply for it. And when I ask them, why didn't you apply for it? Because I see you are interested in the topic. And they say that I never heard about it. So it's, I think the attitude should be changed. And that's the question of education, which should be taught not in universities, but in secondary schools or in primary schools, how to find opportunities and seize it. That's an ability which we should enhance. And that's a very big problem in Hungarian education, many other problems, that there is not enough emphasis on this.
Yeah.
I want to hear my voice a little bit too. I've never been an Erasmus student. I always envied my university mates who got scholarships. I was studying basically the wrong subject. I was majoring in Hungarian literature and grammar, and I couldn't go to foreign universities. So I just left university and went to another country and got a job and enrolled to university. So this is how I do it. But I did it. But as for what you said, that most of my friends who got the scholarships with Erasmus couldn't have afforded to study abroad without it, and probably there are a few that could have, but it was a huge opportunity for them, even if they were just doing drugs and getting drunk all the time. It's a huge experience to meet foreign people.
Everybody, Erasmus program.
So it's like, so that this is how I see it from the outside. I'm not saying that things couldn't be better about it. I think that we should send more people to foreign countries to study there, and have more people have study here. And this, yeah, Yeah, please. There. Yeah. Just do something that it happens. I'll make documentaries. Actually, we did make documentaries for the EU about young people that got jobs through a program called Your First EURES Job. Yeah. So we'll go abroad no matter what. But again, it's an opportunity that, you know, if you hear and if you apply as a young person to get a job abroad, you can get a lot of advantage through the EU. This wasn't advertised too much, but it's actually a program that also the EU does.
Was the question from Anna?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Because I can't quite see from here. There's another thing when it comes to opportunities and people applying and the socioeconomic gap between classes. And the thing that we need to also understand is that some people, even when they know about opportunities, are still not going to apply because they think they will never get it. Yeah. And here is also something that we should discuss in terms of just classes. In Europe, we all think classes, that it definitely isn't, but also in terms of inequality. So Erasmus is a form of a scholarship, but I think one could find a way to have one portion of it be provided through affirmative action. So that it is, and I hate that word really, why do we use it? But that is targeting particular groups that have even harder time applying for things. Okay.
Well, I'm standing up so that they can hear.
So we are focusing here on financial conditions and education, but I'm interested if there is another reason why people are leaving country. Like you mentioned this Jewish people, they are affected. So maybe there is other reasons. Like I'm from Georgia. My country has different kind of background and problems. Myself, I want to leave country not because I don't have the financial condition. I want to leave my country because I don't like the cultural background and many things happening in my country. So maybe you have this kind of problem as well.
Okay.
I can relate to that because I have no logical reason explanation of my current residing in Berlin. I just went there because I wanted to broaden my views and experience, and I actually wanted to. What's in my head is that I want to bring. I want to be a bridge between Berlin and Budapest, so to say, so that the two countries, the two mindsets can move closer to each other. So I can definitely relate to that, and especially in Berlin, there are a lot of people that just ended up there because it's cool. Yeah, and you know, they might stay, they might leave, they might learn from it. Everybody actually likes it there, most of the people. Whereas in London, I met many people that just didn't like it there. They were just there to make money. So there are, you know, different places in Europe where different people go to with different backgrounds and motivations and ideas. So yeah.
I do think that financial questions are a factor for many young people. I mean, if you mention Berlin, I think many people started moving to Berlin because living was really cheap, for example, and so it does influence. But it was also for sure, and this is something that I can relate to completely, and I think many young people feel like that you want to have a place where you feel free. And if you live in countries where the media is being restricted, where houses can be searched without a search warrant just because there might be a suspicion that there are refugees being hidden there. I mean, okay, I'm just giving these examples right now to say that if you create an environment that people don't feel free anymore, especially specific groups of people, like for example artists or journalists or other people that work with exactly in these kind of sensitive fields, then there is a tendency of going away. And I think that this is even more problematic because especially in situations when you have a restriction of civil rights, for example, you need these people in the countries to change the situation. I'm not going to bring it on anybody personally that they leave. I found it very interesting that Luca, one of the characters, was saying that she's being treated like a traitor somehow, sometimes by some people, that she's not supposed to make comments on the situation anymore. I would never do that on a personal level, but still on a structural level, that you have these tendencies, that then the critical and progressive people go away, that's reinforcing many of the problems that are arising, I would say.
Okay, thank you. We also asked in our survey the motivation behind the migration, and the answer which contained the political component. I mean, the proportion of these answers were extremely low. So I don't want to defend the policy of our government. I disagree in almost every measure. But I don't think that the main reason behind the migration is the political climate. It's not political. Maybe the government is not good enough in creating opportunities or creating perspectives for youngsters. That could be true, but it's not political. First of all, if we just look at the numbers, it's not. They are not. There is no correlation with the political cycles and the rate of and the migration rate. That's for one thing. But whether is demonstrated by our research, so I don't think it's that. Maybe behind, of course, the main motivation is a financial one. But behind that is that students or youngsters, they don't think they could get a job. So that's the most important reason. Of course, it's also financial, but it's they don't think they could get a job which corresponds to their qualities, to their skills. So, for instance, someone with a degree can get a job as a researcher or as an analyst, but only as an operator. So that's how most people think the situation is. So that's why most of them left the country.
Just one short story to add this. We've been doing NGM Academy since 2010, and back then there were Hungarian students who were about to leave the country to study abroad, but not that many. I don't know exact numbers, but and I remember at the beginning of 2012, in January, around 20th of January, there is a yearly expo about higher education in Hungary. It's called Edukáció kiállítás. So we were there with our colleagues. We had our tables and everything there to help students. And that was just some days or a week after the new regulations came out in Hungary about higher education. And that day we were flooded with students and questions, and they all came us and they said that they planned to apply to university to whatever major for some years, and suddenly the system has just changed and they have no places there, or they have to pay, or they have to sign a contract to stay in the country, and all different kinds of reasons. And And they also said that they heard that, for example, in Scotland, education is free and very good quality, so they want to go there. And we said we had to tell them that, yeah, that's cool, but the application deadline was 5 days ago. So 3 years ago, the situation has changed a lot here in Hungary, and a lot of students decided that they want to go abroad who have never thought about this before. And since then, these numbers are growing, and somehow it also became trendy to go abroad. So I would say that this is just an estimation, I guess. I don't have anything behind it, but there are students who are leaving because they cannot get into university here in their chosen subjects. There are ones who leave because the quality is better, and there are also ones who are leaving because all the cool guys are leaving. All the smart kids are leaving from my class, so I have to leave too, or I should leave too. So there is this trend as well, which I think will slow down in the coming years. So this is another aspect, and also this is just a small addition that maybe we haven't talked about, is that to get away from your family. It's so a lot of students want to go abroad because this is, even though if they like to be together in this age, it's really motivating and it's a really interesting thing for youngsters to get to start their own life, and if they stay in their home country and in the home city they have, it's much harder. So there are a lot of students who are motivated by these factors as well.
Any more questions? You have the ball. Yes, don't throw it to him. He's holding something. The laptop.
My name is Után. You may know me these days. I'm from Hungary, and the older you get, the more hats you can wear. I feel, don't feel old saying that, but I have different hats that I could show you. One of the hats is that I'm an educational advisor. I used to be a teacher, still teach from time to time. So this topic is especially relevant to me. Another hat is that I've been working on international relations, cultural and educational ones. And recently I joined an MEP's team, Massachusetts team. And I had the privilege of visiting Brussels regularly. But the most important hat today that I would disclose to you is that I have 4 kids with my wife. I'm really interested, and I live in Budapest, of course. And they're getting old. Our eldest son just got into university just recently, and the other 3 are in the middle of the high school. And my generation, turning late 40s, early 50s, has massively has to face the question whether to stay or leave Hungary. This subtitle, Reclaiming Your Space in Europe, is an ancient riddle or an ancient problem in Europe. Every generation, at all times, has to change his own or her life in Europe or in his or her country. So it hasn't changed. What is unique now is in certain parts of Europe, such as Hungary, as you could notice over the last years or over the last days, is that life is not just difficult. It's getting almost impossible if you have an ambition to actually harmonize your dreams, or your vision, or your image of Europe, especially if you are creative or if you have ambition. There is a conflict, there is a clash between the reality and the dream that we had and we shared in the late 80s, early 90s. And the problem is that the level of migration and emigration is so huge that it actually threatens not just the national economy, but also the sustainability of an entire nation. To translate it into figures, you have 500,000, almost 500,000 people who already left, and the estimates are that there are hundreds and thousands, especially young people, but also in the middle generation, who are planning to leave. Because, and that brings me to an issue which I'd like to emphasize here, because I have a tendency to speak too much, because I used to be a teacher, as I said in the beginning. Responsibility. Let's choose that one notion. The responsibility of a MEP, the responsibility of a film director, of an entrepreneur, a researcher, or a parent, or a student. We all have our own responsibility at all levels: family, regional, country, and European level. And the main question is, one of the main questions is, what is your message to your kids and to your family about Europe, which is relevant? How can you convince, and how can I convince my kids and myself to stay here? I think that one of the major benefits of the Green family that I really enjoy is that we dare to look into the mirror. And this is why I find it particularly useful to look at your film and David's research as well. Donnie's, sorry, research. Because it shows the mirror of reality, a symptom. But what we need, I think, for the Green movement and the political foundations within as well, is to dig further and to have some more understanding, to make the right questions about what is behind this whole wave of emigration in Europe, and what makes your life, what makes the life of the young generation meaningful in Europe. And I think that we have a tiny initiative, but probably very important potentially in LNP, in our party, which is called the Retour program, which has a Facebook site, etc. You can tell your stories, but also it has an ambition to actually develop your individual and collective strategy to think about your future in Europe, and then even more importantly, to bring people back, a kind of European recycling, the European mobility in both ways. And I would be very happy if we could actually come to another session or workshop where we could put the questions and maybe launch a research program or some more workshops to discuss the good practices, if they already exist, of how you bring back people to the countries of their origin, not necessarily just in Central Eastern Europe, but in other parts of Europe. And I finished here. I spoke too long, but I really appreciate that I can do it. I'd be happy to go further with that kind of discussion.
Thank you. Thank you. I think there was another question there.
I was trying to make it as a question, but I think it'll just be a personal statement. I feel that the conversation has been a lot about outbound migration and how that's bad, how people are leaving and we need to convince them to be back. But I think to the stay or leave question, we might want to add, should we welcome or not welcome those who are coming? And I give that perspective of myself. I'm a Romanian national, and I've chosen to work and live here in Hungary. And what is to be gained by opening our economy, our culture, by not weeping for those who have left to pursue personal goals or personal betterment, but by receiving those who are here and who have something to contribute.
I think that's another movie idea. People who migrated to Hungary.
we're working on it. Actually,
You
how
said
many
it's gonna be a
people?
short movie.
How many people here from Eastern Europe? And the rest of the people are from Western Europe and all other parts of Europe or the world?
Central Europe.
Central. Okay. Okay, guys. It's our responsibility. It's our own responsibility in one person to make this place attractive. Just to summarize the thoughts of the gentleman who just spoke long well, and it depends on us, and I have to. It's shit because I just want to have fun in Berlin and party and chase girls and everything, but it's not pointing at the EU and everything. You're going to be the EU. You are Europe. It's our responsibility. It's the question where we start is that I ask myself, what can I do to make this a better place so that people come here and don't leave? I don't have any problem with people leaving. It's a scary idea that everybody leaves and it's going to become a black hole. I hope it's not the scenario. But it's our responsibility, and it's a real responsibility that we do for this. So I don't know. I just thought I would remind myself. Grab a microphone again.
I'm going to turn this into closing statements because we're running out of time. So Teddy, you're next with a closing statement.
I think I will give my time to the people from the audience who still wanted to say something. But, yeah, I think that the two of you have been raising your hands for a very long time, so I think I've spoken enough. I want to give you the floor. So be concise.
Okay, I'll just be really short, and I'll say that a lot of the times economic migrants are being demonized and being subjected to a lot of prejudices, especially coming from Eastern European countries to Western Europe. And I think we should change the approach because they are also subjected to exploitation, and that was also shown in your movie, and thanks for documenting that, and we are not pointing that out. We we have to tackle that a little bit more. So what does Europe do in order to keep the respectful migration? I think that's one of the biggest questions to be asked and to be answered. And it's, I think what we also need to do is to think less about national identities which are reinforcing this kind of prejudices based on nationalities, and promote European identity even more so that people actually are treated with respect, and they have actually access to normal labor condition and not exploitation, which we have seen. So that's right.
Thank you. We'll definitely still be hanging out here for another 2 or 3 hours because we have a concert and dinner coming up. So we'll be having a lot of discussion still, but I would like to hear from these two gentlemen their final statements.
I already told a lot, so now just go for the dinner.
Sorry, I have a short thought. I was just thinking while listening to some of you saying that we should bring people back and these kind of things. What I think is the most important is that everyone should find the thing where they are the best at and what they enjoy the most. And we should let them do it wherever it's the best for them. That's what we are trying to do, for example, orientation and telling and showing kids the possibilities around so that they don't choose a major in university without knowing what it is about and what things that they can do after they finish school. So I don't think we should force people to come and go on these kind of things. We should just try to make the surroundings, the systems around convenient for people. So that's just in the movie. It sounds crazy that you have a degree in acupuncture and Chinese medication and you can't work with it. And that's very easy to provide this system, I guess. But it's not everyone wants to make systems easy for people. So we should just provide these systems and work on these systems and let people choose wherever they want to go. That's my closing statement.
Okay, and Gio, respect is nice. Values are nice. But I would like us to, again, call the elephant by its name. Our Europe today has xenophobia. It has anti-Semitism. It has Romaphobia. It has homophobia. It has a lot of phobias. And in order to practice that respect that you have talked about, I do believe that we need to find a way to talk to people that we really disagree with. So I would like to ask, kind of as an action call to every single one of you, to find a way to befriend, well, first start talking to them, and then start making friends. With somebody who really doesn't like refugees, somebody who really doesn't like economic migrants. Try and find a way to talk to them, because I've liked every single one of you from the moment you made your opening statements on the first night, but I knew I was not going to radically disagree with any one of you. So my call to action for us to make Europe an overall more welcoming place to each other and to those coming from the outside that are currently in the greatest need. Talk to the people you disagree with as well. Thank you.